Good afternoon. We're glad to be here at LGRMS. I'm Lieutenant David Bullard. I'm First Vice President of the Georgia State Firefighter Association and NVFC, National Volunteer Fire Council State Director in that role for the state of Georgia.
How you doing? I'm Lieutenant John Hutchinson with Columbia County Fire Rescue. I've been in the fire service 26 years, hazmat tech, and I currently handle all the air monitoring for Columbia County along with Lieutenant David Bullard.
We want to talk today about the issues with the fire service and relate that between our side and risk management and create a dialogue in the risk management world and the risk managers throughout the state. Thanks to LGRMS for this opportunity to get us on the same page. So when we have issues or concerns, we understand where each other's coming from in this and what the needs are. One of the things I think we battle in the fire service is that cultural myth that in between calls we sit around and play checkers. And for the slides today, I couldn't find a picture of firefighters playing checkers. These guys are playing chess, so they have a little more time on their hands, I guess, to get into a chess game. But I think it's important for us not to let that be portrayed as what we do. And visibility is very important in our departments and in our communities to get out and be involved in people when we do ask for things and have budgetary needs and have issues come up. We have a lot more public support that way when doing so. And also the romantic portrayal, I guess, of the fire service. You see the firefighter covered in soot and all sweaty and nasty to fire and grimy. And there was a time in our business, and for the fire service viewers watching, you can certainly attest to this, that the dirtier you were after a fire, the more work you did. That was kind of a top dog symbol there, right? It wasn't that long ago, and there's still people that believe that. And our industry, the way it advertises products and services, still has a problem with putting pictures out just like this, and it sends the wrong message that we know right now this is not how we want to look, and we want to be cleaned up and want to be a little smarter in how we work, and things that would never work in general industry, things if you went into an industrial site, industrial plant would not be accepted, we kind of almost bragged about.
That's right. And it brought on we found out that it's brought on a false sense of security that we are able to just go in and fight these fires without taking care of ourselves after we're done. And that's just very detrimental to your future in the fire service. And we have to change the way we think about things. And that's one of the reasons why we've worked on this, and that's why we're here.
So a historical perspective, what got us into some of the things we're doing? Well, first of all, we didn't know that looking sooty and being nasty was really a problem. Like I said, it was a badge of honor. Yeah. And when we talk about SCBA usage and some of the bad habits that came about from SCBA usage, some of them have some historical relevance, some actual reasons why they were. And if there's some people that have been on the job for 30 plus years, maybe even Chief Gibbs, I know you're watching in, you've been on quite a while. When they came on, a department may have had one or two SCBAs. And a rookie was told, hey, don't touch that unless there's a rescue. And sometimes even don't even touch that. That's where it is. Right. And the reasoning was they were expensive, so you didn't have many of them. May not have had access to airfills. Or if you did have access, they cost money. Or it took somebody making pretty much a day trip to another city to get the cylinders filled. So there was really a reason not to use them. Plus, the fire's a little bit different. The fuel package is a little bit different. So it was a little more forgiving on you in maybe not using an SCBA. And the older SCBAs, they were uncomfortable. As soon as you did knock the fire down, if you were wearing it, you wanted to take that thing off and get that weight and that bulk off your back. And I guess there was a degree of macho attitude as well.
I remember the steel cylinders.
Well, what about you when you came on, y'all? When I was still wearing the Scott 2As with the trunk on them, you had a trunk, and what did you do at most fires with the trunk regulator?
We would take them and couldn't hardly get it. It was demand pressure, and you had to switch to positive pressure or demand pressure. And you couldn't hardly, you had to hook it into a little box, and we would just take it and stuff it in our jacket. And actually, that's how I was trained. It's not that they were doing anything wrong. That's probably how they were taught.
So looking back now, how do you think about all those fires you went to and did that?
I think that there was a lot of poor choices made, but that's just the way
somebody you trusted taught you that. So as a historical bad practice that was taught to you, and you didn't question it, right?
Exactly.
I didn't question, hey, as soon as we knock the fire down, we're taking our packs off and we're going to overhaul with with no mask on because it's no big deal, right? It's just an overhaul.
Right.
It's a little bit of smoke. Right? So why is this important? Where does this come from? Studies as far back as the 70s, maybe earlier, have shown higher rates of cancer among firefighters. And it relates back a lot to skin absorption and the things we breathed in during overhaul, not washing gear, not showering after fires, and diesel exhaustion stations, things like that. So over the last 30 years, the studies that have been done, 30 to 40 years the studies have been done, have shown higher rates of cancer in the fire service. And these studies are always evolving. The majority of the studies have been done in larger cities because that's where there was a need or even a basis of funding to do the studies. Some are done by NIOSH, CDC. I saw an article about a month ago. A fire chief in the suburb of Boston had gotten the job, and a reporter asked him, "Why do you think your department doesn't have the number of cancers that the city of Boston does?" And he said, "Well, maybe we do. We're just a smaller department." He said, "Percentage-wise, we're probably the same." But he has 90 people. Boston may have 700 or 800 people. He's going to have less numbers. So it isn't a number thing, it's a percentage thing.
Right.
And numbers-wise, for those that aren't familiar, testicular cancer in firefighters, they're 2.5 or just over 2 times higher risk for that. Multiple melanomas, 1.5 times the risk. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, 1.5 times the risk. About 1 1/3 times the risk for skin cancer. About 1 1/3 times the risk for prostate cancer. 1 1/3 times the risk for malignant melanomas, 1 1/3 times the risk for brain cancer, just under 1 1/3 times the risk for colon cancer, just over 1 times 100% higher risk for leukemia. And so far, the breast cancer has been studied in women in San Francisco, and preliminary results show maybe 8 to 9 times higher on breast cancer. And there's also a higher rate of breast cancer in men. So these numbers are pretty powerful. And it does show there's some occupational ties to cancer in firefighters. And as John and I say, a lot of times we're talking about this and around the state when I've talked about cancer education and cancer awareness and worked on the cancer bill, we're not doing this for our generation. We're doing this for the next generation and setting them up to hopefully see these numbers drop. So I mentioned the work on the cancer bill in Georgia, and for several years we worked on presumptive legislation in the state of Georgia. And if you're not familiar with this, we'll just kind of give a brief overview of House Bill 146. We had a bill signed, or a bill that passed through the House and the Senate last year and was vetoed by the governor, and it gave a firefighter in Georgia the right to file a workers' comp claim and then petition for workers' comp benefits for cancer diagnosis. The governor, like I said, vetoed that. We came back this year with House Bill 146, and I'll even say I think the governor, I'm going on a limb here, the governor may have done us a benefit by vetoing that because it created a lot of dialogue and a lot of interaction among different sectors in the fire service as well as ACCG and GMA, and really got us discussing some of the things going on. And I think he did us a huge benefit in allowing us that opportunity. And with House Bill 146, it now says that fire departments in Georgia must carry coverage on all their firefighters for a short-term disability, a long-term disability up to 36 months, and also a lump sum benefit for a cancer diagnosis of specific cancers. And the intention there is if you can't work, that lump sum can basically help you pay for COBRA until Social Security benefits kick in, as well as the long-term disability insurance is going to help you also get to the point of getting Social Security disability. So it's designed to bridge that gap if you're out of work for an extended period of time. And it's still on the firefighter themselves or the department themselves in choosing to do short-term disability. So I would encourage anybody in the fire service that doesn't have short-term disability to absolutely get that if you can, because that will give you that 6 months window up to the start of long-term disability.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the anatomy of fire smoke. There is a difference between the smoke and fire smoke. What we found out through studies through the Fire Smoke Coalition is they've taken it and just tried to break it down to make it where it's really an eye-opener. This class in itself, just talking about the fire smoke anatomy, could last an hour. So we're just going to brush over to give you an idea. Well, in fire smoke, as you see, we have particulates, which are dust and soot, You have your irritants, your hydrochlorics, acids, sulfur dioxides, and your sorry, my eyes aren't that good. Oxide, nitrogen, and ammonia. You also have your asphyxiants and your toxicants, which are your carbon dioxide, your hydrocyanide, carbon monoxide, and hydrosulfides. All right, all these. I don't know if any of y'all are, if you're in the fire service or any of y'all are metering. All right, we have these meters that we go in and we'll check the toxicity of the air or concentrations in the air. We can't pick one thing out because there's such a cocktail of toxicants in the air. Back the smoke of yesterday, as they say, is it was wool, cotton, and wood, just wood. Now you're adding in your PVCs and your plastics and all these things, your wires, the things that bind on your
glues, your laminates.
Yeah, your glues and your laminates and all that. And it just creates such a toxic environment that is just hard to nail down exactly what you're going to be bringing back to the station. So if we go back to I think the second slide we had of the firefighter that had the black face, well, all that stuff is stuff that's going to get inside your body, get in your glands, which is designed to do because it's filtered through there, but then eventually it's just going to sit there. And who knows? We just talked about cancer rates. Is that what's part of it? We don't know yet. But it's a high risk. So you have to keep yourself clean, and we'll discuss about deconning and such.
So, John, is it safe to say the things that you see in smoke are the things that hurt you later, and the things you don't see in smoke are the things that hurt you now? Like the soot and the things like that you're absorbing, that's what's hurting you later. And the things you don't see, the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen cyanide, are what's hurting you now.
Exactly.
And some of these things, as John mentioned, we're big proponents of doing air monitoring on the fire ground. I think a lot of departments are doing that now. We run a hydrogen cyanide sensor in addition to our carbon monoxide sensor for doing fire ground monitoring, but we still can't read oxides of nitrogen. I can't even say that right. So some things we can't read. We're looking at a mixture, so even using a PID to read that, we're very difficult to tell what's there. So if there's smoke present, should we even be metering or just know these things are there?
Well, if you got smoke present, then you know something's there. What we're looking for is what we can't see. And that's going to be after your fire's out. And then generally, the only real reason to meter or check is if your family possibly going back in, like a little single room with
like to reoccupy, or for like in a townhome apartment, letting them reoccupy next door.
You want to check the neighbor buildings and such, but if it's a total loss, there's not really any need to meter because we know something's there.
Or even if we're not even letting them back in the home or letting us back. What about investigators? What should they be thinking about?
I think investigators, from what I've learned and what we've talked about, they need to think long and hard when they're in there and they're getting out of their cars and they're walking past the firefighters wearing their SCBAs. And they're walking in these houses that still have smoke in them just to see a burn pattern. They really need to consider having the state or whoever they're working for invest in an SCBA or a particulate type mask system.
And if they're digging a fire out later on, wearing PPE to do so.
Proper PPEs
as well.
And if you're not sure understand what I'm talking about, you'll have our contact info. We can fill you in more on all this.
Well, I know we're kind of doing a way high overview here. This is just a short webcast as kind of a bait and a teaser. But John, we do have a video that I think when we first saw it, it was like, man, this is what we've been doing for years. This is what we're tracking around and bringing back. So we'll watch this video out of San Francisco, and it's pretty good.
It is. It'll drive it home what we're talking about.
John, have you ever been guilty of doing that?
I have absolutely been guilty of doing that.
Have you been a habitual violator of that?
I had been.
And I have been too, and I think that most people in the fire service that are watching that said, yeah, I've done that before, never thought twice about it.
Exactly.
And you never realize what you're spreading around. That's wild.
And that's why I mentioned that video right there, just in itself, after what we talked about the particulates, just absolutely drives home the thought of the potential, what can be brought back in. That's not just at the firehouse. That's back to your family also.
So what can we do to make that better? We can do some on-scene decon, right?
Exactly. We can do on-scene decon. On-scene decon is, I wouldn't call it fairly new, but it's something that's being more recognized. I know we've tried it, and we're working on making it happen within our department. And it's a hard process because it's something new, just like anything. But on-scene decon is simple, and we're just going to do a brief overview. Baby wipes. You come out, just like if you're in the hazmat, just decon yourself real quick. Wipe your hands, wipe your face.
So before I get a drink of water or something in rehab, I need to...
How long will it take to wipe your face?
Well, it wouldn't be long, and I think that every firefighter at least can relate to this. They've been at a fire and looked at a cup of water, and there's been stuff floating in that cup of water, insulation, soot, whatever, and they haven't batted an eye about drinking that cup of water. We don't need to be doing that anymore.
Well, why don't we back up before we're doing that, and won't you explain to them about deconning when you come out of the structure?
So when we come out, we can have a booster, another hose line, a garden hose off the engine, whatever laid out, and just quickly rinse your gear off. And I've heard guys say, hey, you're going to have us soaking wet with soaking wet gear. Well, most fires I've been to, my gear's been wet, so not that big of a deal. And it's not a flooding wash, just enough to knock the bulk of stuff off of you, and then just wipe up with the wet naps or baby wipes or rescue wipes, whatever you choose to go with there. And you can do a decon kit on an engine for under $15, a bucket, a simple scrub brush, some dish soap, things like that. Air management is big, right? Let's make sure we're not operating in a building on low air, because that low air is our reserve that reduces our chance of running out of air, right? Or if we have an emergency, we have more air to deal with that. PPE advances are big. There are several hoods on the market now that offer particulate filtering.
Right, and actually I think you've used one.
I do have one, and it's neat to me. After a fire in the past, my hair would always smell like smoke, and for 2 or 3 days after, I'd take a shower, and all our fire service viewers can attest to this. You smell smoke again in the shower where it's coming back out of your pores. The first time I wore this, I came out and I got somebody to smell my hair. I said, "What's it smell like?" They said, "It won't smell anything." I said, "That's pretty cool." And taking showers afterwards, there is no smell of smoke coming from my hair. So I really believe they're working and reducing the amount of things getting to my skin in these high absorption areas like my neck and throat.
Right. That's where your hood is.
Right.
In case you wonder why you mentioned that. Your hood absorbs a lot of the particulates.
Of course, another goal is working toward a second set of PPE that could be cost effective. And that takes some budgeting and planning out. But at least doing the on-scene decon, trying to diminish what we're carrying back and spreading around, limiting taking PPE into the station helps in the meantime, as well as limiting vehicle idling in the station. If we don't have a ventilation system, when you crank the apparatus up, get it out of the bay. Don't let it sit in the bay for an extended period of time. Some in-station risk reduction are gear washers and extractors. And if you're not in the fire service or not familiar, you can't go to Sears and buy a top-load Kenmore washing machine and go wash our turnout gear in that. It's not going to work. It'll tear it up. It'll tear our gear up. It's not good for the washer at all. So we need a high-speed, a high RPM extractor to wash the gear in. And these run about $3,000 to $5,000, maybe a little bit more for some models to get multiple sets of gear in. And that's a big expense, especially when your station wasn't designed for it. So if you can start budgeting them in with new stations, that's great. I think a lot of people, or most people, are probably doing that now. If you're trying to retro, maybe putting one in each battalion or centrally located to ease this up. Our department, we're working toward adding washers and extractors every year now. And if your neighbor has one and you don't, work with your neighbor and work out a plan to use theirs. I'm pretty sure they will. Gear dryers are very important as well. You don't have to have a gear dryer. It just takes a while. The gear is so bulky for it to dry. Some gear dryers may run $7,000 to $10,000. I have a picture on the slide here of one I saw last week. It's made of PVC and an electric fan. They built that for about $300. So depending where your budget stands, that may be your item you start with right now. I think encouraging your firefighters as soon as they get back to the station after a fire to take a shower. Before you eat, before you lounge around, whatever, immediately take a shower, and strongly encourage them to wash all of their station uniforms at the station in the regular laundry there. Don't take that home.
You're taking it back home to your family. Whether you know it or not, the particulates, carcinogens, are actually soaking through your fire gear. and it's getting onto your person and your clothing. And if you don't clean it, you're going to take it back home.
And also, for volunteer departments, encourage them to use like a plastic container or something to segregate their gear. In a volunteer department, a firefighter goes to a fire, they have dirty gear, they get back in their vehicle, go pick their kids up from daycare after the fire. The kids are being exposed to that, so let's encourage and find ways there to limit the exposure, not just to them, but also to their family members. And the picture at the bottom right there, our good friend Michelle Ice, she's with Cobb County. She's our state representative for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. And she got us these signs, and they've been distributed around the state to a bunch of folks. No gear beyond this point in the station. You see in movies, and we used to do it. You used to take the bunker pants and set them out right by the bed at night because you got dressed quicker putting your feet in your gear right there by the bed, right? And just limit PPE in the stations. It stays in the bay. If you want to bring a set in to do training with in a classroom, just make sure it's an absolutely clean set. And
or go outside.
Or go outside. Don't be in the kitchen in your turnout gear cooking with dirty gear on. It's not a good habit there. In the long run, looking at station design, something that we saw a presentation earlier this year was even ice machines collecting diesel exhaust. So if you could move your ice machine out of the apparatus bay, then that might not be a bad idea in the future. When you design stations, don't put the ice machine in the apparatus bay to reduce that diesel exhaust being pulled into the ice.
If it is in the bay, just set a schedule to clean it, 3 months, 6 months.
Which should be done anyway.
Right, yeah, but just make sure that's done. Empty it out, clean it out, and it'll...
In fact, the demo did, they melted all the ice out of the bin, and there was a sheen on top of it from things that came from the diesel exhaust. So it was pretty eye-opening there. Designing the stations with separate gear storage. There's a picture there of separate gear storage. That is better than being in the bay. Of course, that's not totally blocked off, but it is reducing somewhat the diesel exhaust the gear is being exposed to. And if it can be a totally closed off room with a doorway or something, even better. If you can budget for it and work toward it and get an understanding when you're going through the budgeting process of why ventilation systems are important for apparatus exhaust, I think that is big.
Right.
And addition of a decon room where you can wash gear, wash SCBA in its own like mud sink or decon sink. And maybe if you have the ability to design the station, even put a entrance to the showers off the base. You go straight into the showers and can shower there versus even having to go through the living areas to get to them. I think that's another thought there. Real quick, we're going to talk about physical wellness. I think it couples along with this well. NFPA 1582 is the standard on basically fire department wellness, fire department physicals. A lot of departments do physicals to 1582. A number of departments do not do physicals or provide physicals to 1582, and I'm not going to get into what you should or shouldn't do there. But if you're not doing 1582 physicals, I think the encouragement needs to be to your members that when they get their annual physical at their own physician, that the physician understands what they do for a living. They understand that they're a firefighter and what the hazards and risks there are, and strongly encourage them to do cancer screenings based on that. Give them this list of high probability cancers and make sure they're getting screened for them. Maybe work with your local hospitals on cancer screenings. There's a program right now with the Georgia Prostate Cancer Coalition. They're offering free prostate cancer screenings to all firefighters in Georgia, and they're slowly working their way around the state with clinics trying to get this done. I know in the metro area there's some hospitals that are doing some free screening. So go to your local hospital. There may be somebody there that could help you out and do some screenings. And if you're going to have a physical fitness program, help find ways to make it effective, where guys can improve and gals can improve their health, not just cardiovascularly and strength-wise, but overall health. And if you can offer some incentives on that, that's even better. It doesn't have to be monetary.
Right.
Maybe some bragging rights, something like that. Something to make it more interesting. We're a competitive bunch, and if you can put some competition into it, that may pay off. And then finally, mental wellness. Studies are showing that suicide rates in public safety are around 25% higher than the average population. And the last few years, this has gotten almost as much attention as cancer. Firefighters really don't die in collapsing buildings and being burned. It's heart attacks, apparatus incidents. So take advantage of the driving programs, the LGRMS, the defensive driving programs there, the driving simulator to help with that. And the numbers are also showing we have a large number of cancer deaths and also a large number of deaths by suicide here. So if you're not offering critical incident stress debriefings, look into that, look into ways to set that up, look into doing peer counseling. And I've included some numbers here on the screen as some free resources, some free 800 numbers you can call to get help with not only doing debriefings and peer counseling, but also if you have somebody or yourself is in need of talking to somebody, the numbers are here. I encourage publishing those numbers throughout your department. If you contact me, I can get some National Volunteer Fire Council share the load posters for your department, get them sent out to you so you can display those around. And coming up next week, the National Volunteer Fire Council has a grant offered program through the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, and it's being hosted by the Georgia State Firefighter Association at the Guardian Center in Perry. We'll have a 1 p.m. offering and a 6 p.m. offering to accommodate the Volunteer Fire Service, and it's a mental wellness workshop. That's a lot to say. That's a tongue twister there. Much. So we have 25 to 50 participants can be at each one. We have a few slots open, so please shoot me an email or go to the Georgia State Firefighter Association website. The information to register is on there, and we would love to have a full house in Perry. Well, thank you all very much. These are our email addresses. Feel free to contact us if you want a copy of this or further information or have any questions or comments. And if you want information on getting the signs, I'll get you in touch with Michelle over there. And hope to see some of you in Perry next Tuesday as well.
Just as an aside, I will be sending the PowerPoint presentation to all those that registered for this session. So you'll be getting that automatically. I'll also send you a recording of the session, and anybody else that you're aware of that wasn't able to make it, you can send it to them or let me know and I'll distribute that recording. We'll also have it on our website. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm going to try and reach out to people. So Steve Matthews, are you out there? Steve Matthews, I unmuted you. Are you available to talk, Steve?
Sure.
Got any questions, comments? Do you want to do a standing ovation for the gentleman?
I think they did a good job. They covered the material very well, so no questions.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you.
You can leave Steve unmuted if he's going to talk like that.
There you go.
Thanks, Steve.
Let's go one more and see if we got anybody. Ryan McDavis. Ryan McDavis, are you out there? Ryan? I'm not sure if it sounded like snoring. I might have interrupted him.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're going to go to a question. I got a question here.
John says we inspired him to wear an SCBA. That's what that noise was.
D-Ron said, great work, Pat, program. Thank you all for doing this. Let's see. Great work. Let me see what I got. Let me get go back to attendees. I know I have. So, Tim, are you out there? Tim Connell. Tim, are you there?
Hey guys, how are y'all?
Doing great. You got a question?
Actually, my name is Justin Coombs. I'm the risk management coordinator for the city of Thomasville. How you guys doing?
All right, how are
Pretty
you?
good.
Doing good. Thank you for putting this on. I deal with workers' comp claims for our city, and I noticed that you spoke a little bit to the workers' comp side of the house. And I was wondering if you had any kind of talking points or any kind of guidance regarding the workers' comp as it relates to the cancers that you were talking about.
I'll be happy to send you some stuff. The way the law in Georgia reads right now is cancer is a disease of life, and that is why it is not covered by workers' comp. That's why we had the bill introduced in the past to try to get workers' comp the ability to just file a claim. In some states, it's presumptive. If a firefighter gets a certain cancer, a certain list of cancers, it's an automatic workers' comp benefit. That wasn't working for us, so we tried the approach of at least giving us the opportunity to file a claim and see if we could get benefits, and that's what the governor vetoed last year. So our current bill that goes into effect January 1st is there's just a cancer insurance coverage versus tying to workers' comp. But I'll be more than happy to get with you and send you some stuff on that and talk to you as well. In fact, I was talking to Chief Dukes on the way here this morning, and he was saying very good things about you. And I'll.
Hey, he's sitting here listening. You know,
Oh, Dukes is listening? Okay, well, I'm good then.
his head gets bigger now.
Excellent, excellent. It's one big love fest here. That's what I like to see. What else we got? Let me pick on one more person. Thank you guys so much. You got the gold star today.
Sure.
Pick one more. Let's see if we can go to. Let's see. You can see Jackie. I'll get him on the line if he was there. Yeah. Somebody's not on. But one more. Here, it's Jackie Gibbs. Jackie Gibbs, are you out there? Jackie Gibbs. Just unmuted
I
you.
appreciate good information. Lieutenant Goodrow sending in for Chief Gibbs. He's out at another, he had another appointment calling in. So, yeah, it's really good information, and I appreciate the hard work you're putting it together.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the comments. With that being said, we're going to end. Any last words?
Thank y'all for listening in.
Wear your air packs.
Excellent.
And spread the message.
That's right.
Yeah, spread the message. It's a good message. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it. And again, if you ever need anything, you can give me a call at 678-687-6280, or just write DBECK. That's DBECK at LGRMS.com. Either one, I will respond. And I'll send out an email to everybody. Hopefully you guys know that. But thank you guys so very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.